Section 1. Hook and Introduction. My family has never been the kind of family that believes in ghosts. In fact, if you sat all of us down at the same table and asked whether we believed in anything paranormal, every single person would probably laugh and say no. We always searched for logical explanations. Strange noise in the attic? Probably the house settling. A shadow in the hallway? Bad lighting. Something goes missing? Someone moved it and forgot. That's why what happened to me still bothers me years later. The memory came flooding back during a completely ordinary conversation with my brother. We were standing in the kitchen one afternoon. I grabbed a bottle of water from the refrigerator and casually asked him if he believed in ghosts. He shook his head. Then he told me about an experience he once had that he couldn't quite explain. That was when I decided to ask him a question I'd been carrying around for years. "Did you ever try to scare me when I came home from school?" He looked confused. "What do you mean?" I explained that there had been a day back in 7th grade when something happened inside our house. For years, part of me had wondered if maybe he'd been responsible. My brother thought for a moment. Then he shrugged. "The only thing I ever did was shoot a Nerf dart at you while you were on the computer." The moment he said that, my stomach dropped, because I remembered the Nerf dart incident. And what happened that day was not that. Not even close. Back then I had just started 7th grade. It was a normal afternoon after school. I came home, dropped my backpack in my room, and climbed onto my bed with my earbuds in. Like most kids my age, I planned to spend the afternoon watching YouTube videos and doing absolutely nothing productive. Before I got home, my mom had called to tell me my brother would be leaving soon to visit a friend. My parents were both working late. That meant I would eventually be alone in the house. Normally that shouldn't have bothered me, but I was a quiet kid, almost too quiet. Whenever I was home alone, I always had an irrational fear lurking in the back of my mind. What if someone else was in the house? What if there was somebody hiding somewhere? I knew it sounded ridiculous. Still, I would move quietly from room to room, as if making less noise somehow made me safer. At the time, I thought it was just childhood paranoia. Now I'm not so sure. Section 2. The Uneasy Silence. After watching videos for a while, I paused one and got up to use the bathroom. The upstairs layout of our house was unusual. Standing in the bathroom doorway, if you turned left, a short hallway led directly to my brother's bedroom. If you turned right, you reached a staircase that descended to a landing before continuing down to the main entrance. Another detail would become important later. Our house had an alarm system. Whenever a door or window opened, a voice from the alarm panel would immediately announce which entry point had been used. I stepped into the bathroom and closed the door behind me. Everything felt completely normal, until it didn't. Just as I was about to flush the toilet, a loud thud echoed from my brother's room. The sound was sudden enough to make me freeze. I assumed he was getting ready to leave for his friend's house. Nothing unusual about that. I flushed the toilet, stood up, and walked over to wash my hands. But after the thud, the house became completely silent. No footsteps, no doors, nothing. The silence felt wrong. I can't explain it any better than that. The atmosphere suddenly seemed heavier, like the entire house was listening. I shut off the sink and stared toward the bathroom door. A strange knot formed in my stomach. I remember thinking I was being ridiculous, yet every instinct told me not to open that door. I slowly locked it. Then I waited. A few seconds passed, then a minute. The silence stretched longer. I didn't have my cell phone with me, so texting my brother wasn't an option. There was a house phone in the bathroom, but dialing it would make loud beeping sounds. For some reason, I didn't want to make any noise. Then I heard it, talking, very faint, very low, coming from my brother's room. The voice immediately sent chills racing through my body. It wasn't my brother. It wasn't my father. And it wasn't a television. It sounded like someone muttering under their breath. A real voice. Deep, quiet, close enough to hear, too distorted to understand. I strained to make out words, but all I caught were fragments of sounds. Then the muttering stopped, and something else began. A slow, heavy pounding. One step, then another, then another. The sound was moving, and it was heading directly toward the bathroom. Section 3. Something outside the door. The pounding continued down the hallway. Slow, measured, deliberate. Each impact sounded heavier than a normal footstep. I stood frozen in the middle of the bathroom, staring at the door as the sound drew closer. Closer, closer. Then it stopped. Right outside. Every muscle in my body locked up. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I simply stared. The silence that followed felt unbearable. Then panic finally took over. I backed away from the door and moved toward the bathroom window. If somebody came through that door, I needed somewhere to go. I was a 7th grader. Small. Weak. There was no scenario where I was going to fight an adult. I covered my mouth with both hands, terrified that whoever was outside might hear me breathing. Seconds crawled by. Then the pounding resumed. But this time it moved away. I listened carefully as the footsteps traveled toward the staircase. The sound reached the landing. Then, crash. A loud impact exploded through the house. My heart nearly stopped. A second crash followed from farther down the stairs. Something had either fallen or jumped. I couldn't tell which. Then the muttering returned briefly. Low, unintelligible, almost conversational. And then it vanished. For a few moments, everything was silent. Then I heard movement downstairs. A door opened. A moment later, it slammed shut. Immediately afterward, the alarm system announced that an entry door had been used. Whoever had been inside had apparently left. At least that's what I thought. I stood near the bathroom door, trying to decide whether it was safe. Part of me wanted to stay there forever. Another part desperately wanted confirmation that the nightmare was over. Finally, I approached the door. My hand rested on the doorknob. I was still covering my mouth, still listening, still terrified. Then something happened that made absolutely no sense. To the left of the bathroom, near the floor, was a small laundry chute. The chute connected to the laundry room downstairs. Anyone traveling from the main level to that laundry room would need at least 30 seconds to get there, maybe more. Yet less than 10 seconds after I heard the front door open and close, a violent banging erupted from inside the chute. The tiny chute door shook violently. Again. It sounded as if someone had jammed the end of a broom handle upward and was repeatedly stabbing at the door. The entire metal panel rattled, vibrated, jumped against its frame. I stood frozen, unable to move, unable to think, watching that little door shake as though something desperately wanted to get through. Section 4. The longest wait of my life. The pounding continued for several terrifying seconds. Every strike echoed through the bathroom. The noise wasn't random. It felt intentional, aggressive, focused, as if whoever, or whatever, was below knew exactly where I was standing. I remember staring at the laundry chute door and thinking that if it somehow burst open, I had nowhere left to run. The bathroom suddenly felt impossibly small. The walls felt closer. The air felt thinner. Each impact made the metal door tremble. I could see it moving. Actually moving. That image has stayed with me for years. Then, just as suddenly as it began, everything stopped. No footsteps. No muttering. No banging. Nothing. The silence afterward was somehow worse. I remained in the bathroom for what felt like hours. Realistically, it was much less. But fear has a way of stretching time. Every minute felt endless. Eventually, I gathered enough courage to unlock the bathroom door. Very slowly, I opened it. The hallway was empty. The stairway was empty. The entire house appeared completely normal. I crept back toward my bedroom, taking careful steps and listening after each one. Nothing moved. Nothing made a sound. Once inside my room, I immediately tried calling my parents. No answer. I called again. Still nothing. The realization that nobody was coming to help made the house feel even larger and more isolated. I shut my bedroom door and sat against it. There was no lock, so I wrapped my hand around the doorknob and held it. If someone tried to enter, I wanted at least a few seconds of warning. Outside, the afternoon slowly faded into evening. Every creak of the house made me jump. Every distant sound felt threatening. I sat there waiting, listening, watching, holding that doorknob so tightly my hand eventually hurt. When my parents finally returned home, relief washed over me so strongly that I nearly cried. I immediately told them everything. The voice, the footsteps, the crashes, the laundry chute, every detail. They listened, then dismissed it. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I misunderstood what I heard. Maybe I was frightened by ordinary house noises. I knew they didn't believe me. And honestly, I couldn't blame them. The story sounded unbelievable, but I knew what I had heard. I knew what I had felt, and I knew I had not imagined that pounding coming from the chute. Section 5. The conversation that changed everything. Later that evening, my brother finally came home. I told him the entire story. At first, his reaction was exactly what I expected. Doubt, confusion, disbelief. He assumed I had probably mistaken normal sounds for something threatening. Then I asked him the question that would stay with both of us for years. Was it you? I wanted a simple explanation. Maybe he had come back unexpectedly. Maybe he had been playing some elaborate prank. Maybe there was a perfectly rational answer. Instead, he stared at me. Then he slowly shook his head. And years later, during that conversation in the kitchen, he confirmed it again. The only thing he ever remembered doing to scare me was shooting a Nerf dart in my direction while I was sitting at the computer. That was it. Nothing more. When I reminded him about that day in 7th grade, I watched his expression change. The skepticism disappeared, not because he suddenly believed in ghosts, but because he remembered something he had never told me before. He explained that when he lived in that room, there had been times when he heard strange noises coming from above him. His bedroom had access to an attic space. Occasionally, he would hear sounds up there. Unexplained sounds, movement, noises he couldn't identify. As he spoke, I could see he was being completely serious. For the first time, neither of us had a good explanation. Years have passed since then. Neither of us believes we encountered anything supernatural, at least not officially. We still prefer logical answers. But no matter how many times we've discussed it, neither of us can explain what happened inside that house that afternoon. Who was muttering in my brother's room? What walked down the hallway and stopped outside the bathroom? What caused the crashes on the stairs? Why did the laundry chute begin shaking only seconds after the front door seemed to open and close? I don't know. My brother doesn't know. And despite countless attempts to rationalize it, no explanation has ever fully fit. That day remains one of the most disturbing memories of my life. A memory wrapped in unanswered questions. A memory that began with a simple afternoon at home and ended with a mystery neither of us has ever been able to solve.